Awesome, good. Well, welcome to the Shine Bright team training meeting where our growing ASEA family gathers to learn and develop our skills in furthering the mission of ASEA to help hundreds of thousands of people around the world live a healthier life while achieving their own personal and financial aspirations and dreams. My name is Jane Zeeher. I am a bronze executive with ASEA, forgot that line. And today is, I don't know, it's Tuesday the 18th, I think. Sorry, I should have checked that out. It's the one thing I didn't know. Tuesday the 17th of July. So many healthcare professionals are calling ASEA's products the greatest scientific breakthrough in health science, anti-aging and athletic performance of our lifetime. They're saying this science discovery is as big as the discovery of penicillin and DNA. So the intention of this call is to support you to gain the maximum benefit from using ASEA's products and to empower you to share this extraordinary technology with the people in your life, making a living while making a difference. So we ask for your cooperation to not record this call and not distribute it to mass media or social media sites. So no Facebook, Twitter, etc. please. The call is recorded and posted to the Shine Bright team Facebook community and the team support website. So we encourage you to invite all your associates to this call, but it's not intended for the general public. There are some announcements, and they are that after this call at 8 o'clock on the same Zoom number, the fabulous David Penrose will be adding sauce to the mix. I took a bit of liberty there with the title, David, and getting dramatic results. Tomorrow, there is the opportunity to invite your guests to listen to the expert in the house, which is David He. He's one of the fastest qualifying diamonds. That's on at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. on www.advancinglifeinfo.com. Coming up also rapidly is the training with Clay Stevens. He's amazing trainer coming over from the States, amazing network marketing trainer. He's in Brisbane on July the 29th. And in Melbourne on August the 5th, so hope to see the Melbourneites there. It's a full day's training from 9 till 5 for $107 US. And for those of you not able to get to Brisbane or Melbourne, you can attend the event online, the Brisbane event on July the 29th. However, there are incentives to go along and experience it live, which is very exciting. So to book in for that training, if you haven't already, you can go to www.ritraining.com/Australia. Okay, and next Tuesday's training at this time, I should probably re-announce at the end, but we've got Sally Globetrotting Diamond, who's been on tour, and she's going to be taking us on a tour of our dashboard and learning how to navigate around that next Tuesday. So that's what's on for then. Okay, so I have got a little presentation, if I can work out how to share my screen. I've got to find it. Here it is. And you have to be kind to me. Somebody said last week that it's my first time doing training, so just got to get it here. All right, can somebody nod and tell me if you can see that? Because you've all disappeared off to my right, so I'm not going to, if I turn my head, that's because I'm looking at you, but I'm really looking at you here. All right, so our team training for tonight, the 17th of the 7th, there you go, is when your prospects insist that they use something just like this. Now, I don't know how many of you have experienced that. I'm hoping you'll share your experiences as we come into it. But I've gone with some assumptions prior to this that, oh, what's happening? Oh, I'm on the wrong screen, that's why. Some assumptions. So the first assumption is that you've completely got into their world and you know what their pain is. So that pain could be physical pain, literal pain, and it could also be some kind of emotional pain. They want to belong to a community, or it could be a financial pain. So whatever it is, you've explored that and you've looked into it. The other thing is they really don't think that they've ever heard of redox signaling molecules, Renew 28 or ASEA. And you've set up with them that this is a good time for them to speak with you. And you have some tools that you can share. Now that can be something as simple as a tube of Renew 28 or a phone with some pictures on it. So that's all assumed. You do your thing and then they say, oh yeah, that sounds just like X that my auntie sells. She swears it helped her knee. Or they may say, oh, that's the same as the anti-wrinkle cream that I use. The point is that they're identifying that they believe it's the same as something they already use, something they know of but they've rejected. for some reason, or something that they have access to from someone else. And, you know, obviously with that last one, that's where you really don't want to do any damage to any kind of relationships. We never want to damage relationships, but, you know, if there's some hope there that you could get in the door with them, then obviously you really need to be able to take care of that. So they say it's the same, and you go, so your kind of head explodes, and not in a good way. So, you know, you kind of wonder, well, what was I doing for the last 10 minutes? What were they listening to? I gave them all my best analogies and everything. And you're feeling a little bit frustrated. And what you do, you know, the question is then, what do you do next? Because there's a tendency to want to say these kinds of things, you know, because that's what's going on in your head. But the reality is that we haven't been able to actually address their pain point with a solution that's phrased in a way that they see it as a solution. We may have become mitochondriacs and just gone off down a complete rabbit warren. Possibly they heard the word antioxidants and they switched off because they know what they are, and they just didn't continue listening. Or maybe that you were talking in a language that really sounded like something foreign to them, so they switched off. Now, I shared a wonderful video on my personal page, which was yesterday, which was a TED talk on the 10 ways to have a better conversation. Now, I loved it, but at the risk of offending some of you, there was a saying in that says that good conversations should be like miniskirts, short enough to retain interest, but long enough to cover the subject. And that's very much like we should be doing here. So, okay, what there is to do next is to breathe and smile. Now, you might feel like smiling like that, but obviously that's going to come through. So smiling in a very authentic way is going to come through whether you're on the phone or you're with them face to face. Now, there's an interactive part to this presentation next. I had about 25 years of being in sales in various capacities. And a golden rule that I learned very early on was this, that we never, and you can guess these as we go through, we never, what's this one? Somebody want to tell me? I'm not looking at chat, so you'll have to unmute if you want to tell me. Well, if you don't know, it's argue. We never argue. You're going to struggle to get this one, I can guarantee it. It's a picture of a horse. It's not about horsing around. But if you Google the word justify, look for an image, then this is a thoroughbred clearly called justify. So we don't argue, we don't justify, and we don't defend. Because when we do this, our brain kind of shuts down and we risk damaging the relationship. And there's a really strong tendency to want to go in and tell someone that they're wrong, that they misheard you, that there's nothing else like it. But all that's going to do is completely put the person that you're talking to offside and get them into a corner. Because if they don't get it, really, who's that down to? If we argue with them, then we're showing we're not someone who they would want to do business with or even go on a health journey with. If we justify, it puts us on the back foot. And redox signalings are not on trial here. But if we try and say, oh, well, when I last looked at blah, blah data, then it said this, so then we're kind of justifying what we're saying. Defending is a lot like arguing, and you kind of go, well, maybe you didn't understand what I was saying. And that, they're probably going to hear that as, well, that person thinks I'm stupid. They think I'm stupid, when you're really not. And even when you do accept responsibility, you're going to be on the back foot and trying to recover ground because you're saying, well, maybe I didn't explain it very well. And it becomes a really no-win situation. So what there is to do instead is obviously ask some questions. Now, when I was in the corporate sales world, we were really lucky because we had marketing people who used to present on a platter to us all the ins and outs of all the competitors' products so that we knew them just as well as we knew our own product. And whilst we know that really there is no actual competitor to redox signaling molecules, there are things that are going to sound like redox signaling molecules. So it's pretty important to be aware that sometimes that will happen so that you don't get taken by surprise. And, all of these things, they're going to be competing for people's budgets with the people that we're talking to. Now, a couple of these things, there's a new to market skincare and nutritional range that sounds like a messenger molecule, because it speaks the same language as your cells as part of the marketing blurb. Now, these are botanical and nutritional elements that are bioactive in skin cells, but they're not redox signaling molecules. Similarly, there's a liquid collagen product that talks about replenishing collagen. It's clinically proven. It's as important as many medical discoveries were in the past. So these all sound like they could be also very similar to some actions that some of the Renew and ASEA products have. But they are a super nutraceutical, as they're called. It's hard to get your teeth around that one, I can tell you. So the objective in asking questions is to flush out exactly what product they're talking about and what it is that really, which is normally a nutritional of some description. So some sort of questions that you might ask, and the objective here really is to get them to come to a point at which they realize themselves that it's not the same as, or you don't use it on that. So things like, what are the ingredients? And once they tell you, you go, well, could that be a nutrient? You know, is it maybe not what you think it is? Tell me more about how it does that. So get them to explore how they understand it works. And then something like, so is that something the body makes itself? Because, you know, you've been very clear that the redox signaling molecules are something every body makes. And if it's something that they have been using, but they've still got pain, otherwise they wouldn't be talking to you, well, how's that been working for you? And you could also ask them, particularly if this skincare product that we talked about came up, well, which skincare product do you put on, for example, your inflamed joint or your broken bone or your scar or your restricted range of motion? How's it working for those? And then they'll actually start to kind of go, oh, yeah, well, no, you don't use it on that. And this one is a little bit more risky, so you'd have to have a really intact relationship with them. But how specifically does that help do whatever? I've got kill rogue cells here, but you know, get them to get, if they're being really vague and fluffy, get them to try and get a bit more specific around it, and they'll soon say, you know, well, actually, I don't know. Now, it's really important here. This is a great opportunity for you because you don't want to bag the product, but you do want to be really curious. And I love to come into a situation assuming that they're going to know something that I don't, because you can always benefit from learning. I'm a bit of a sponge in terms of learning. So saying something like, look, that sounds like a great nutritional product, and I'm always up for learning more. Could you please send me some details? Because you know sometimes that redox needs more or different raw materials to work with, so it's always handy to have a source of great products to refer people to. And likewise, you may find that while people may get a result, it may not totally resolve their issue, and that's because the body needs the redox molecules to really get the job done. So maybe you could refer them to me. So this establishes you as someone who is open to working collaboratively. And it's also about having an abundance mindset because there is enough to go around for everyone. Now, ideally, then you'll get them to have a redox experience. And I don't know if you've all seen the video that Janine shot on the weekend and put up. There were 2 little videos that show how even when someone's got no obvious issue, that they can have a redox experience by adding some redox molecules to their body. So they're quite powerful and they're really good to learn. So once we've kind of got down to the basics of everything, really, this is a bit like becoming the captain of the ship, and this is where you start to take back control, because it's quite easy to lose control if they think they know what you're talking about. So what you want to do is now align with them, validate the fact that, you know, you can see how you thought that they were similar, or it makes total sense that if they're talking about messenger molecules, it can be confusing. And, you know, validating completely that nutrition is a really, really important thing. And then from there, you can actually start to kind of course correct. So pointing that out, that without the redox molecules, the nutritionals are going to stand, you know, not going to be able to do 100% of the job, because they need the formin and the label, which are the redox signaling molecules, whilst the nutritionals are just the building blocks. And of course, without the redox signaling molecules, antioxidants just aren't going to be able to work. Now, in these skin products that I was referring to before, they're a different kind of signaling molecule. So you can have neural signals, you can have hormonal signals, and then you've got the redox signals, which are completely different. Don't ask me how they're different, but they are. So if the redox experience hasn't happened at that point, then really make sure that you try and go in so that they can see how the redox molecules can be an assist for the body. So really, it is about keeping it simple, sweetheart. Nicole commented about the article that was published by the Direct Selling News on Zeeher, that we don't need to explain the mechanism of action. We just tell them that it works, let them know how it will help them. And if they need more detail, then point them in the right direction. So, you know, having a great relationship, developing trust with them means that they're going to be much more open to hearing the kinds of things that you say and believing you. Drilling down beforehand, when I say drilling down, it's being really, really clear that you know what their pain is. Is it a physical issue? Is it a financial one? Or is it an emotional one? They really want to believe and belong with a group such as us. So they want a community to be part of. And it's really important, especially if you're new in this industry, that you practice some of these kind of responses that you're going to get, so you don't get tripped up, you're not left on the back foot. Get really familiar with some of the stories that are in the Renew with Redox group and elsewhere, so that you can build word pictures if you don't have real pictures. Obviously you can't have a phone picture of a change in blood results if you've got diabetic or something. So get familiar with the stories so you can explain what's happened. And when I say here, lose the battle so you can win the war, this is all about, you don't have to get it right all the time. People hate a smart ass, and losing the battle is about being authentic. Admit if you don't know the answer to the question that they have, and make a commitment to get back to them. Because all the time we are a walking advertisement for ourselves, for the company that we represent and the products, and even the industry. So be very conscious about who we show up as is really important. So it is a people business. Our goal is to make and maintain relationships, and just be prepared to be amazed every time you have a conversation with anyone. So that's it. I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Ooh. If anybody has had a great result and dealt with this very effectively, or if you've got any comments on the things I've said or any questions, please just unmute yourselves and chip in. God, either you, it's deafening silence out there. Yes.
Thank you for this. Even though I came in a little bit late, it was really informative, and I'm still pretty new and a beginner. What I find, I often get, when listening to them and hearing their story, get carried away and don't know how to get the thread back in again. And without being too bossy or, you know, and guiding it too much. Like, I find it difficult to get back to being the captain of the ship. Where is that bend to get back into the discussion where I'm wanting to lead? I'm not very good at that.
It's really about getting back to what their pain is. So just say, look, remember how we started off when we were talking about the fact that X is happening for you? Would you like some help with that? It's literally about drawing it back to the pain and just asking them if they want some assistance. And if you've really built that pain picture with them very well, then you'll find that they're going to be begging you, can you help me? What have you got? So, you know, yeah, it is really easy. Don't worry, Elizabeth. We all have we've all been mitochondriacs at some point in time and given too much information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yes, it does. That's easy to remember as well. Get back to the pain. That's really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jane, it's one of my favourite topics because over the 3 years, you know, I've been doing presentations and somebody will go, oh, yeah, that's the same as that, you know, other product that I use. And I go, oh, really? That's really interesting. So, you know, which one would you use to put on a frozen shoulder? And they go, oh, no, you don't use it like that. And I go, oh, okay. And then I'd say, so which one do you use for your stretch marks? And they go, oh, no, you don't use it like that. And I go, oh, okay. And they go, oh, it's different, isn't it? And I go, yeah, it is. It's absolutely different. Yeah. And now, as you say, there's more and more products come out that have got marketing material that have it sound very much like, you know, to somebody else listening to us for the first time, they sound the similar, if not the same.
Yeah, totally. Totally. That's beautiful. And as you say, Janine, it's, and going back to you, Elizabeth, if any guidance that you want to do, you want to lead them down that path of their own realization, because as they say, you know, selling's not telling. You don't tell people the obvious. You just get them to explore it with you, and yeah, asking them the right questions to get them to come up with that. Oh, yeah, it is different, isn't it? Is then you kind of go, don't you, Janine? You can sort of,
absolutely
relax.
You know, let's do a redox experience. They love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Hi, Tracy. Please.
Hi. I was just interested to know, because we're going to experience a lot more of this when we introduce the Via Source. So because there's so many multivitamins and everything out there on the market. So are you able to give an example of how we could use it in that situation? I mean, I'm not sure too much about the Source. I know it works better with the Zeeher, but how else can we differentiate our product from just a normal multivitamin on the shelf?
Look, I think it's the source of the source that is our differentiating feature. And I think, it's about learning as many examples. So being able to build those word pictures with people, just say, oh, I was listening. You'll probably get some great gems from David's presentation that's coming up at 8 o'clock when he interviews someone who's getting some good results with the source. It's finding out from other people what they've noticed and being able to relay that back to them. You'll find, I mean, one of the things is you'll find that a lot of people don't actually see any change with their own multivitamin or their specific vitamin that they're using. They may be, if they're targeting something and they're using a very high dose professional range of something, they may see some changes. All nutritionals are going to have got the potential to have some impact, especially on gene expression, but most of them aren't going to work really, really efficiently without the redox. So I guess it's kind of about layering them. And Janine used a great analogy when we were talking earlier. She said it's a bit like sending in a boy to do a man's job. You know, the nutritional is going to be pushing it uphill to get a change to occur if you don't have that foundation of the redox molecules there. So it's getting them to differentiate in their mind where the two come into play. And if it's a choice in terms of a financial outlay, then the redox has to be that foundational product. You can always layer the nutritionals later. And I don't know, I'd be welcome some input from some of the others. What would you like to say here, Janine?
Well, I just say to people, you know, have you got any specific measurable results when you went on that nutritional? And even if they don't, it doesn't mean that it's not working. You know, if they had something very specific that they wanted to see turn around, and that didn't shift with the nutritional, then it's like, well, you know, it's like an experiment. You know, you could swap that one out for the source and give it a go. I mean, it's really, they need to qualify it themselves by using it and be able to see whether they notice anything. And of course, depending on their age, of course, as Jane said, the foundation could be they need the redox, and whether they're on our nutritional or theirs, a foundation of redox would obviously potentiate you know, the nutritional working. But look, I've been on a nutritional product for years, like 30 years, but at the end of the day, it was synthetic. So like, to me, it's just a natural choice to swap to something that's sourced from organic food and that's been fermented and it's got superfoods in it and live enzymes that are my body's ability to absorb it and utilize it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have all those point of differences. I actually don't know of another nutritional on the planet that has all the point of differences that we have right now. So to me, they're sort of poles apart, really.
Yeah.
And
that just comes back to knowing what the product is. And as I think Janine's been quite clear in it, it's just, well, give it a go. That's all you can say to someone and see if they experience a difference. And you'll probably find they'll get some cost savings as well if you actually look at some of the money, you know, outlays that they're spending. So, yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Anyone else? Thanks, Megan. Yeah, Megan's put out the money the money one. There are some good actual testimonials in some of the groups around the kind of savings that you can make. Maybe some practitioners want to share what they've seen, if they've seen any difference with clients, or if anybody's got other things to add regarding Source.
We might just make a mention. We've got quite a few people now in our team on Source. And one of the things that I find fascinating is within a week or two, people are saying things like, oh, since I've been on the Source, I'm not as bloated. Within 3 days of taking the Source, I notice a shift in my energy within whatever. Now, I've never heard that before about any other supplements ever, except Redox. And myself, for example, I've had some fairly challenging health conditions to do with my bowel. I've never been able to take a supplement that I could hold down, and Source is absolutely the first nutritional supplement, or however you want to describe it, nanonutrient, that I've been able to know that is being absorbed into my own system. And I knew that within probably the first 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
I have a pretty good idea of what's going on in that department. Yeah. So, just in that respect, I would have to say, after years of trying all sorts of health products, Source would be one of those ones, along with Redox, that you notice change within a short period of time. And that, to me, hands down, is amazing.
Point of difference.
Point of difference.
Yeah. So all of those things, again, it just comes back to knowing your product. And I probably didn't know the sources as well as Janine and Jeanette to explain those differences. But so there you go. It's about practicing, don't get caught out. All right, guys, if there's nothing else to add, I just want to say thank you very much for coming. And like I said, next Tuesday, same time, same place, it's going to be the fabulous Sally Diamond giving us a tour around the dashboard, learning how to navigate around that. So I think that'll be valuable for everybody. Other than that, if anybody's got anything to say, unmute yourself, say it now, and I will otherwise stop the recording. And
so, Jane, I have something to say.
Oh, okay.
Fabulous training. Thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to, contributing to the Redox Shine Bright community. Love your work.
Thank you very much, Janine. You're very welcome, everyone. Let's, believe along to come.
Awesome work.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Lots of notes.